Hi guys, thank you. Welcome to a lesson that does not involve solving systems of equations. It's our first one of the semester. Today we are going to work on skill 2A, which is exponent rules. There are quite a few of them. We'll go through each one, we'll practice them individually, and then at the end we will start to put them all together. You've used exponent rules already without even knowing the specific rules, I'm sure. So some of these should come as hopefully second nature to you. So maybe a review for some of you, maybe not. I also want to make sure that you guys realize that you have a test the next time we get together. So today's homework will actually be an assessment review, and then you guys will be taking a test in class on Friday. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Start filling in those blanks. So product rule. When you are multiplying things with the same base but different exponents, you must multiply the coefficients and add the exponents. So what you're looking at is, do they have the same variable? If they do, so that's the same base, if they have the same variable, then you're going to multiply the coefficients, the numbers in front, but you are going to add the exponents. Okay? So that first one, you have a to the second, and a to the third. That first a doesn't actually have an exponent, and I hope that you recognize that there is a 1 there. You are multiplying them all. Obviously, that's what that dot means. So you're doing multiplication for all of them. They all have the same base, so they all have a's. So you go ahead and just add the exponents. So 1 plus 2 plus 3, a to the 6th power. Number 2. This one gets a little bit more complicated. You obviously have coefficients and you have different variables. So you're going to multiply the coefficients. 2 times 4, which is 8. So you do normal multiplication with the numbers. And then you're going to do the work with the exponents for the a's. The first one has an a to the second. The second one is an a to the first. So add those together, a to the third. The b's, the first one has a b to the first. The second one has a b to the second. So you're going to add those and you get b to the third. Number 3. Same thing as what we just did. This should be a touch easier. Just going to multiply the coefficients. 6 times negative 3, negative 18. Add your exponents. 2 plus 5, x to the 7th. Okay, number 4. Same thing as number 1, just as easy. Add all those exponents together. 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus, and then there is not 1 there, but it is assumed to be a 1. So 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. Although that says b to the 15th, and that doesn't seem right, unless I can't see the exponents. But 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 2, which is 9, plus 1 is 10. So I don't know if that's a typo or I just can't read it, but I think that answer might actually be wrong. Number 5, just multiply. So 3 times negative 3, so negative 27. Add your exponents. 4 plus 3 plus 2, x to the 9th. First rule is your product rule. Next one is your power rule. When you have a quantity raised to a power, you will perform the outer exponent operation onto the coefficients, and you will multiply the exponents. It's similar to the distributive property. So when you look at example number 6, you've got a 2 as an exponent on the outside of those parentheses. That 2 is going to go to the 2 as the coefficient, the x squared, and the y cubed. It's going to go to all of those parts. Okay, so the 2 is 2 squared, so that's where that 4 is coming from. Then for your exponents, you're going to multiply them. So 2 times 2 is 4 for the x's, and 3 times 2 is 6 for the y's. So 4x to the 4th, y to the 6th. Okay, number 7, 5 to the 3rd power, x to the 2nd raised to the 3rd power, and y to the 4th raised to the 3rd power. So 5 to the 3rd power, again, 5 times 5 times 5, 125. You're going to multiply the exponents. 2 times 3 is 6. Multiply the exponents. 4 times 3 is 12. Number 8, 6 to the 3rd power, so 6 times 6 times 6, 216. X to the 4th raised to the 3rd power. So that one you're going to multiply, so 12. Y to the 6th raised to the 3rd power, you're going to also multiply that one, which gets you the 18. Number 9, 4 to the 3rd power, so 64. X to the 3rd times 3, y to the 3rd multiplied by 3, so x to the 9th and y to the 9th. And then the last one on there, 7xy to the second power. So that becomes 7 squared, x squared, and y squared. And 7 squared is your 49. So that is your second rule. Quotient rule. When you divide things with the same base but different exponents, you must divide or simplify the coefficients and subtract the exponents. So again, coefficients are treated normally. The rules have not changed for normal numbers. The rules are different for exponents, but not for your coefficients. So number 11, you're subtracting exponents. 3 minus 1 is 2, so x to the second power. Number 12, treat the numbers, the coefficients, like normal numbers. It is 18 divided by negative 3, negative 6. Take your exponents, 3 and 2, and subtract those. So c to the first power. Number 13, again, divide. 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. You do the a's together, 3 minus 1. Do your b's together, 5 minus 2. So negative 3, a to the second, b to the third. Number 14, negative 48 divided by negative 8. Divide them. Normal numbers do division. So 6. 2 minus 1 is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. So c, d to the third power. Number 15, 22 divided by 2 gets you 11. 6 minus 1 is 5. Now be careful, this is always the trick. It is an 8 minus a negative 7. Minus a negative, remember, is the same as addition. So it actually ends up being 8 plus 7, which ends up being 15. Okay? Next is the easiest rule. You will enjoy this one, the zero exponent rule. Anything to the zero power, anything to the zero power is always 1. But be careful, there is a coefficient being multiplied, something with a zero power too. So we'll talk about that. So let's go 16. N to the zero power is 1. 3x, because it's in parentheses, because the whole thing is in parentheses, it's 1. Whereas when you get to number 18, I want you to notice that the 3 is not being taken to that power of 0. It's not in parentheses like 17. So it's a 3 times 1, so it's a 3. Okay, so do you see that difference with the parentheses and not the parentheses? So again, number 19, the x to the 0 power becomes 1, but nothing else does. And so that's 3 times 1 times y, so 3y. Number 20, negative 8 times 1. And then you have a negative 2 times 1. So you have a negative 8 times a negative 2, which gets you to that positive 16. Okay? But anything to the 0 power is 1. Parentheses mean everything turns to 1. No parentheses means just that variable turns to a 1. So be careful with that distinction. Negative exponent rule. When the exponent is negative, it means that it's on the wrong side of the fraction bar. Any negative exponent can be written as a positive exponent once you move it to the other side. So if it's negative on the top of the fraction, it goes to the bottom. If it's negative on the bottom, it goes to the top. So the gist is this: none of your answers can ever have a negative exponent. If your final answers have a negative exponent, you have not done it correctly. Okay? So let's look at 21. 3x to the fourth, y to the negative second. The 3 is an acceptable number. X to the fourth is acceptable. Y to the negative second is not. It has a negative exponent. So you're going to take that and move it to the bottom of the fraction. 3x to the fourth stays on the top. Y to the second goes to the bottom. Okay? Number 22. The x to the negative third. It's negative and it's on the top. It needs to go to the bottom. Y to the fourth stays on the top. It's fine. A to the third stays on the bottom. It's fine. B to the negative fifth is not allowed to be negative. It's currently negative and it's on the bottom, so it goes to the top. When it goes to the top, it becomes positive. So y to the fourth, b to the fifth, over x to the third, a to the third. Number 23, 2a to the negative fourth. 2 is an acceptable answer. It's totally fine. The a to the negative fourth has a negative exponent. That needs to move. So it's going to go to the bottom of the fraction, 2 over a to the 4th. Number 24, 2, x to the negative 2nd, y to the 5th. The x has to move. It's the part that has the negative exponent. So 2y to the 5th stays on the top, x to the 2nd goes to the bottom. Number 25, the 3 is the only thing that stays. The 3 stays on top. The x and y go to the bottom, the a and the b go to the top. So 3a to the 3rd, b to the 7th, over x to the 3rd, y to the 4th. Okay. Now you guys are going to practice on your own. So let's practice putting the rules together to simplify with exponents. Your answer should only have positive exponents. I'm going to look at the first couple with you, and then I'm going to have you do some of them on your own. So let's go ahead and do the first one together. Well, the first 3 together, I guess. So negative 4b to the 3rd, c to the 2nd, d to the 6th all need that exponent of a 2 put on them. Negative 4 to the 2nd power is a negative 4 times a negative 4, so that's why it's a positive 16. You're going to multiply those exponents, so 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4, and 6 times 2 is 12. Then you're going to go to the second set of parentheses and do the same work. So you're going to take the negative 5 to the 3rd power, so that's negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. That means you have 3 negatives, which means your answer is a negative 125. b to the 3rd, c to the 9th, 3 times 3, and then d to the 3rd. Now to get a final answer, you're using the rule that we started with, so you're going to multiply the coefficients, so negative 2,000, and then you're going to add all of the exponents. b to the 6th and b to the 3rd, so b to the 9th, c to the 4th and c to the 9th, c to the 13th, d to the 12th, and d to the 3rd gives you that d to the 15th. Okay, so that involved 2 rules, that distribution rule where you put the exponents on each piece, and then multiplying like bases. Next example, all fraction work, 30 over 60. Okay, you can't actually divide that, but you can reduce that. You can divide the top by 30 and the bottom by 30. So that's where that 1/2 comes from that you can see in the answer. Then you're going to subtract exponents. 3 minus 2, or was that a 5? Sorry, that's a 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2, so that's a to the 3rd power, stays on top. The second one, the letter b, b to the 3rd over b to the 7th. If you subtract those, 3 minus 7 is a negative 4. Negative exponents aren't acceptable, so it goes to the bottom. What you need to learn from that example is, if it is subtracted, it lands on the top until you move it. So b to the 3rd over b to the 7th, when you subtract, is b to the negative 4th, and it's on the top of the fraction. And then you have to move it so that it's no longer on the top of the fraction. Okay? This last one's a little bit hard to see. We started writing kind of small. You're going to put that negative 2 on every single piece. So 2 to the negative 2nd, x to the positive 4th, y to the positive 6th. On the bottom, 4 to the negative 2nd, x to the negative 2nd, y to the negative 2nd. The next fraction has 4th powers on everything. So 256, x to the 4th, y to the 4th. On the bottom, 81, x to the 4th, y to the 4th. I want to draw your attention to this. So look at the first fraction. It's 2 to the negative 2nd, 4 to the negative 2nd. You cannot do that work until you get rid of that negative exponent. That negative exponent does not make that number negative. Very common mistake I get. On the second fraction, you can go ahead and say 256 and 81 because it's a positive exponent. So you're able to do that work. Okay? So then you've got to start rearranging things. That 2 to the negative 2nd needs to go to the bottom. 4 to the negative 2nd goes to the top. Okay? So 256 on top. You should have a 4 on the bottom. And then you can start to put your exponents together. So x to the 4th and x to the 4th, x to the 8th, y to the 6th, y to the 4th, y to the 10th. On the bottom, x to the negative 2nd, x to the 4th gets you a 2nd, y to the negative 2nd, y to the 4th gets you y to the 2nd. And then you put top and bottom together. So 8 minus 2 is 6, and 10 minus 2 is 8. And then reduce your numbers. A 4,096 and a 324 got reduced to 1,024. Oh, you probably can't see the answer. There's the answer, so you can see what that is. So it's 1,024, x to the 6th, y to the 8th,